My name is Allison, and I'm a former home-based baker turned retail bakery shop owner. And it wasn't that long ago when I was running my bakeries that I was finding myself getting overstressed and overworked while trying to work in my business and at the same time work on my business. So I found ways to save time, save money, and have more freedom. And I'm here to share those tips with you so that you can grow your side hustle into the baking business of your dreams.
Do you want more home bakery sales in 2023? Well, today on Hot Topics Live, I'm going to be helping you to decide if selling at the farmer's market is a good idea for you and your home bakery this year. So if you have been stressing about how to get more sales and wondering how the other home bakers are doing it, then this episode is going to be really helpful because I'm going to walk you through 5 key decision-making factors to help you decide if selling at the farmer's market is a good fit for you this year with your baking business. So thanks for joining, everyone. If you're watching live in the Facebook group, shout out to everyone over in the comment section. And thank you for joining on YouTube. If you're watching live here, don't forget to subscribe so you can catch these Hot Topics live every Monday, 2 p.m. Central Time, where we talk about tips and strategies for running a better bakery business. So let's jump right into today's topic. We're talking about whether participating in a farmer's market is right for you. And if you've been wondering about how this works and you've got questions, then stick around till the end because I am going to answer a lot of frequently asked questions about whether selling at a farmer's market is right for you. So I'll take it back maybe 2 years. 2 years ago, I was selling bread at a local farmer's market in my small town in Kansas. And one of the things that I loved about this farmer's market that we have in our town is that you don't have to pre-register. There are no fees. They don't require insurance. You literally could just show up in the morning, get there early enough to get a good spot, set up your table, and start selling. It was literally like the easiest introduction to farmers markets ever. And I learned a lot out of selling that way, but I also recognize that that's not a traditional system for getting started. However, it is really good practice for the skill set that you need to get really good at farmers markets. So let's go over a few things that I learned selling bread at my local farmers market in my small town free farmers market venue. So number one, I would say you need to ask yourself, what is the cost to participate in your farmers market? So most of you will not be quite as lucky to have these kind of farmers markets where you just get to come and set up. So the first question you need to ask if you're looking at participating in a farmers market is, what are the costs to participate? Usually there's an application fee and then there's a booth fee. And most frequently, they will require you to add an additional amount of insurance coverage. So you want to get an estimate from your insurance company so you know what that cost is for you each month, and then add up all of your costs for the market. That is what we call overhead, and your overhead needs to get factored into your prices when you sell at events like that. So this question of how much it costs to participate is really so that you know how to price your products. And then you can kind of ask yourself, will it sell for this price? Chances are yes, because farmers markets are pretty well populated with bakers these days, and it is possible to sell a competitively priced product at the farmers market. So once you find out all the fees associated with the farmer's market, then you want to walk through the market and get an idea of how many people it usually attracts. And if that's not possible, if you can't get out there, maybe it's off season or for whatever reason, you can't actually physically go and walk through the market, then try to contact some other vendors who have participated in that market and ask them. When you ask the person who promotes the market, they tend to overinflate that attendance number, and that could be really misleading for you when it comes to figuring out how much to bake, which stick around because we're going to talk about that. So you want to get a clear and honest idea of how many people attend. And you're not necessarily going for the biggest farmers markets around, because that little farmers market that I told you about at the beginning, where I just kind of showed up and set up my table, that was actually the perfect size farmers market for me, because I was able to sell everything that I baked. And you'll see, and tip number 5, that how much you can sell is a big factor for the size of the market that you want to be in. So you don't necessarily have to go for the largest farmers market you can find, but you do want to have a good idea of what the attendance is like, and bonus points if you find a market where it's active buyers. So I don't know if you've ever been to a market where there's just lots of foot traffic and window shopping. I was recently at a farmer's market in the Atlanta area, and it was just beautiful products, beautiful booths and displays, but it really almost felt like an art festival where people would just kind of get their coffee and walk around all day. And there wasn't a lot of bags being carried around or purchases being made. And that's the kind of market that you probably won't do as well at. So look for the markets where people are coming, buying their baked goods, buying their produce, buying their fresh flowers, and heading out with all their products. That's the sign of an active, profitable farmer's market. Okay, so now you want to take a look at how many other vendors are there at the market selling. And in particular, focus on the ones that are selling baked goods similar to yours. So if you are a gluten-free chocolate, or let's just say a gluten-free baker, and there are plenty of other bakers, but none of them sell gluten-free, then I wouldn't look at those other bakers specifically as competition for you. So look for bakers who are selling similar products. If you are a bread baker and you know there are 2 other established bread bakers there, you might need to adjust your menu to capture a little bit more of that sale, that possible sale. Maybe you notice that the other bread baker doesn't have a whole grain bread. You may decide to focus on whole grain breads, or there's nobody selling fresh banana bread, zucchini bread, and pumpkin bread. You may decide to go that direction just at the market. Doesn't mean you don't have to sell that. You don't get to sell those things ever again, but you might want to fine tune your menu just a little bit to be more competitive there at the market. So my next tip for you is to think about how much you can actually bake for a farmer's market. So if you're new to farmer's markets and you haven't worked out your workflow yet, then what I'm asking you to think about is how much could you bake and have it be fresh on a Saturday morning? So your customer wants to buy this loaf of bread, for example, take it home and continue to eat off of it for 3 or 4 days. So it's important that the products that you're selling are super fresh when you bring them to the market, which means that you can't really start baking on Monday at the beginning of the week unless you're utilizing some type of freezer strategy, or just doing stages of your production by pre-prepping some parts of your work. But you really want to think about how much you could produce on a Saturday morning. And it does depend what you sell. So if you're drop cookies, you might be able to prep all your cookie dough, portion it out and freeze it, and then bake it all the day before. Whereas if you are a fresh bread baker, then you need to look at your menu and say, how much could I bake the day before so I had fresh bread to sell at the market? And that's a really good thing for you to think about, because This is going to allow you to see how much you could potentially earn at the farmer's market, which is tip number 5. So number 4 is we're looking at how much you could bake, and would a farmer's market be worthwhile for you? And then number 5, we're talking about how much could you earn. Let's say you sold everything that you brought. So for my example of a fresh bread baker at the farmer's market, I baked all of my bread on Friday before. I had a few non-bread items that I made on Thursday. I had some granolas and some crackers and a couple of gluten-free items that I made on Thursday. And then on Friday, I did all of my baking, and I found that I could put out about 30 to 40 loaves of bread on a Friday, have them all packaged up in my totes and ready to go to the market on Saturday morning. So now you want to take a look at what you sell each one of your items for and how much you could bake, and then what that would bring in for you. So you would just multiply the number of items you sold times the price per item. And let's say that brings in $500 for you. Then you want to go back and start to look at what your costs are there. You can take it by the profit that you make on each item and subtract your costs. Whatever your pricing method is, you just want to make sure that if you sold everything that you brought with you, that you would still make a profit at the end of the day. Now, of course, you can alter your prices to include the overhead of the market, and that can help you to make a profit as well. But you really want to think through your ability to produce a full table's worth of stuff, and what would it be like if you sold it all? How would that workflow look for you? So there are 5 tips to help you decide if a farmer's market is a good idea for you. Now, bear in mind that selling at the farmer's market is not only about selling out and making a ton of money. When home bakers are just getting started, I always recommend doing in-person events like farmers markets and pop-up sales, because it exposes you to a bigger customer base. And you get all kinds of amazing feedback when you're selling at the farmer's market. People are going to ask you if you bake other items. They're going to make requests. You'll notice which items are selling well and which ones are just not moving. And this is market research, which is great for helping you build your brand. So there are my 5 tips for deciding if a farmer's market is right for you. Now, let me know in the comments here below the video what your number 1 question or concern is about jumping into the farmer's market niche this year, because it's early in the year. This is the time to start thinking about farmers markets, and that strategy of combining in-person events with online sales is the best way to grow your home bakery business quickly in 2023. All right. Now, thank you for joining me. I can't wait to read those comments and see what you all think about farmers markets and what your thoughts are. And if you're joining inside the Facebook group, then we can continue the conversation over there. And you can scroll up above this video to find all the links to join the Facebook group, as well as a link to a full blog post about farmers markets, which includes Amazon links to every one of the table setup pieces that I use at my farmers market. So my table covering, all my display information, I've linked that all in the article as well. So if you're looking for some tips for booth setup, scroll up in the description of this video and you'll see a link to that blog post. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining on Hot Topics Live today. And I'll see you guys same time, same place next week. Bye, friends.